be doing a watercolor. I have my watercolor paints all laid out. My water here and all my different brushes. I'm going to do a landscape. Now with watercolors, basically you're going to use the white of the paper for anything light. So you always go from light to dark. I'm going to start right where the brightest light is. It's going to be in the, oh, just sort of the center. And right there. I'm just cleaning my brush. I have paper towels just for wiping the water off my brush, but this one I'm going to use straight water on my brush. It's literally dripping. And I'm going to just start going around and pulling that color out almost in a big circular. And I've left the center white for right now. I want my brightest color in there. We will. And you can see I can just keep pulling that color out. I'm going to go back in and make that circle a little smaller. And just keep working it out. Almost like the sun is sort of glowing out from there. All right. I'm going to go in and pick up with just the corner of my brush a touch of the bright red and a touch of the yellow, giving it almost an orangey color. And then right in there is my sun. Clean my brush again. This time I'm just going to kind of wipe the worst of the dampness off. And I'm just going to kind of bring that around, almost in a swirl pattern. And I'm going to go back in that orange color. And this time with my finger, I have almost more control with my fingers doing that and bringing that out. So, all right, I'm going to leave that there. Now going back in, wetting my brush, I'm going to go in and get a little bit of the bright red. And I have some yellow ochre or ochre here. Mix that. It's a little different. It's a little, there's my bright yellow. And then I have the little deeper, almost an orangish yellow. Mixing that with some of the bright red. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to establish my horizon, more or less. These are some clouds that are going to be floating near, and one's going to even come across the sun. Now watercolor does dry lighter, so be aware of that. I just got a wet clean brush and I'm kind of dragging those out a little further. Maybe even up here. All right. Down here, I'm going to take some of my browns. Touch of the greens. I got almost a blue-green. And then down here, and I'm even actually going to pull some up as if they have some tree lines or something here. That's sort of my horizon. Keep it fairly straight. And I'm going to just take a clean brush and kind of underneath, pull that down a little bit. I'm going to have some water down here. I'm going to add more color to that horizon, but I just want to sort of establish that right now. All right, up top, I'm just going to wet it. Clean brush. All right, and I'm going to go into my blues. I want a deep blue. I'm going to add even a touch of alizarin to it. Not much. I don't want purple skies, but I do want a deep blue. I'm just adding a little bit of to deepen it a little more. Give it sort of a midnight blue. Okay, I'm going to start up at the top, come across. Now be careful when you get into this yellow area. We don't want a green sky, but we do want it dark up here. I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to add a little more of the alizarin to that mixture. Now I am getting it more purple. And then I'm going to come down just below that. And then bring that down. Clean my brush. And then here I'm going to kind of, this is just a wet brush. I'm going to bring that sky down. And then sort of drag some clouds, almost like the clouds are coming in here. Now that I have that, I have my paper tied down with some tape. I'm just going to lift that up and kind of let that water sort of ooze down. And I can even take a clean brush and kind of add a little water so it comes down. All right, we'll leave it at that. Right in here, I'm gonna kind of go across, pick up some of that water. And I'm going to go over that and darken that yet. But I want to start establishing some of the water down below. Now water runs flat, so you want to make sure that brush comes straight across. I'm even going over the yellow, but I'm not going to get a lot of color in here. I want that yellow to stay. So back into my blues. Just a touch of that alizarin in it, not much. Keep it more on the blue side. I'm going to pull from this side, yeah. And I'm going to take and do the same thing on this side. Then I'm going to, down the bottom, I'm going to pull straight across. Clean my brush, kind of dry the worst of it off. And then I'm going to, then I can kind of lift that again. All right, let's stick that back down. These corners. Okay. I'm gonna go back in and pick up some of my mixture here. I'm going to add just a touch of brown to it, not much. I don't want much. I just want to gray it down, sticking more towards the blue. And I want sort of a grayish blue. That brown just sort of muddies it up a little bit. And over here, and the paper is still fairly wet. I'm going to put some of these deeper purple clouds coming in. Now I'm going to bring a stringy one in here, just underneath those brighter ones. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Let me pick up some more color. And maybe one here. So get some deeper colors. I'm going to add some blue to that mix. Get it more blue. Bring that up. See how it changes from the purple, it's getting more blue. Same thing on this side as I come up. And then lots of the blue. I'm going to come across the top again. And I'm going to bring some of those down. Clean my brush, maybe drag some of these in, not much. All right. Down below, use that blue with a little bit of alizarin in it, more towards the blue sky. And as I come in, this is more towards the alizarin. I'm using kind of a wavy, get into more of the blues as I come down. And now almost straight blue. Kind of just pulling those straight out. You can see where that path still comes down. All right, let's let that dry a little bit. I'm gonna take and make some, I'm gonna add some of my vermilion green to that mixture. Quite a bit, and I'm gonna take just a touch of that yellow ochre mixed in. And right in here, well, it's still wet, I'm just bringing up some tree shapes along this horizon. Want it to spread a little bit. Bring that right across. Same here. Take a little bit of alizarin crimson, mix in with that mixture. That gives me more of a brownish, almost black color. And then I'm gonna come along the bottom, almost like a shoreline. I'm going to take a fan brush, straight water, that's all it is. And I'm just using the paste up, bringing some of those, blending some of those colors together. Clean it off. I'm going to bring some of that color down. Then with a clean dry brush, just kind of going across a little bit. Some reflections in the water. Back into that deep color. And then we're going to establish a straight water line. Don't normally use black, but I do have some. And we're gonna put in some trees. And because they're against that bright light, they're gonna look almost black. just letting it dry a little bit before I start adding anything to it. Now I have a little real dark color here that I mixed up. It was almost the brownish. I'm just going to add the black to that. Might as well use that dark color, and that'll even darken it even more. And add some water to it. And you can see how dark it is. And here, off to the side here, almost out of the picture, we're gonna have, oh, it's a gnarly old tree here. It actually goes out of the picture. And it's had pretty rough life here. So, and you can just take that right off. That'll be covered up by the mat. I'm gonna clean that brush. I'm gonna take a little round brush, a little liner brush. And from there, we're gonna add some smaller limbs. If it doesn't come off real well, just add more water. Here's a little bigger limb. This one comes out. You figure out how many limbs you want. Maybe here. Oh, maybe this limb comes right over there. We can even have maybe some limbs coming in here. We have a tree off at this side. We don't even know where it's coming from. Somewhere outside the picture. Okay. Now that we have that established, I'm going to go in with some of that black. Add some more details back here. Just kind of darken it a little bit. You can still see some of the greens. Maybe one of those limbs comes out there. Maybe we even have an evergreen. Comes in here. I think I'm going to switch over to my fan brush. I'm going to add a little bit of the greens in there. It's a mixture of blacks and the greens. I'm just starting to see some color on it. A little darker down. All right, we need some leaves up in here. So I'm going to go back to my larger brush. A little darker line right through here. And right through here, I think, I've got a small brush here. I'm going to go into my blues with just a touch of the blacks. Some of my alizarans mixed in. Just giving it a little more lines in the water. Okay. Let's, with just the corner, I'm going to start touching. And I'm not going to push hard. I'm just kind of tapping in some shapes. Let me add a little more water to that mixture. I'm just going to tap one side of it, just get some of the excess water off, and then the opposite side. These are some of the bigger spots here, leaves. I'm going to switch to my smaller brush here. It's got a nice little point on it. Up here, I'm going to a little bit of the browns down here. I know it's hard to see the change in the color, but they're kind of showing up a little bit brighter down near where the sun is. And I still have some of the blacks on there. Back into my blacks. And I'm going to go back to my Twiggy. Keep getting smaller brushes as I and that's more for detail. And you can play around with that, add as many leaves as you want. And I kind of lost that tree limb a little bit. Add that back in. But you can see how you can use. I don't want to do the whole thing with that little brush. It'd take forever, but once you establish some of the bigger leaves, this makes a lot easier to control shapes. So you can see how I'm going in and adding all these little leaf shapes here. Maybe this one doesn't have as many, but we'll put some on it. And I'm doing a little faster than I should. You can take your time. All right. And here, we can kind of, here and there, establish them. All right, I'm gonna go into my alizarin crimson, my touch of blue, get that sort of purplish lavender color. And I got the Twiggy brush, and I wanna pull, see how this is spread. I wanna kind of pull some lines out. This is more in the bluish purple. And if it gets too dark, just add some water. Add a little more alizarin crimson to that color. Get it a little more purplish as I come up. Not really matching the color, but getting close to it. Then a little more of the alizarin. Keep adding more as I come up. And you can see how less matching. This one is almost straight alizarin up here. But it's lots of water in this as I get back further. Okay, back into the purples. And down here, it's almost straight blue. Okay, then in the center, I'm going to go back to my alizarin. And a little bit of that orangey color, the original color I did up here. Right here is that light shining down. This is almost straight yellow ochre. If it's too dark, you can come in the water with a wet brush, pull it out a little further. And that gives you a little bit in there. So I've established the water. I'm going to take my brush with the angle, make sure it's clean. Make sure it's real clean. Still got a little black in it. So it's clean. And then I'm going to just kind of underneath some of these, just kind of pull. Not too much. So we've got ourselves a nice picture at sunset. And then stand back, take a look at it. These clouds, maybe I can touch a little bit of the purples. Maybe pull a few. And if it's too dark, I just wet my brush and clean it and then pull that color out. Be careful getting into the trees. You don't want to drag that black in. But you can see how you can fix different things. If you want, we got a nice bare spot right here. I'm going to go into my blacks. I'm going to tap it so that I don't have it soaked. But in here, it's pretty dry. And I got a couple, oh, maybe just 3 little birds flying in. I'll take my, let's see, where's a dry spot here? And sign that. Well, let's get our mat. It's a little wet, so I'm going to be careful about putting the mat on. But you can kind of get an idea what it's going to look like. You can see the tree. So I think we have a finished painting.